Hey yo, plant check. Hi everyone, it's Marianne and welcome to day 9 of 12 days of Plantmas. Today I'm bringing over plant tech talk here on YouTube and I'm starting my own plant check so I can share with you some of the highlights of my journey with my plants in 2020. And I want to turn this into a plant tag here on YouTube. So at the end of this video, I am tagging some of my favorite plant YouTubers and invite them to do this plant check tag as well. But even if you're not a plant YouTuber and you want to do your own plant check, I will post mine on Instagram Reel and on TikTok, and you can use my sound to do your own plant check. Make sure you tag me because I want to see what your answers are for each of these questions, and I will make sure to share them on my IG stories as well. This is going to be so much fun, so let's get started. First question, what is the first plant that I bought this year? The first plant that I bought in 2020 is the Synapsis pictus exotica. You're probably more familiar with my Synapsis pictus exotica that's hanging on my wall, but I also want to show you the one that I have climbing on the moss pole because I don't think I've shown this a lot yet on my channel. But I got a 6 to 8 inch pot of a Synapsis pictus exotica back in February, even though I said I wasn't going to buy plants until March. But I saw this at houseplantshop.com, and back then it was only $20 for that size of a pot, and the plant was really packed in that pot, so I was able to separate it into 3 different plants. One is the one I have hanging on my green wall, the second one I sold, and this is the third one. And if you've been watching me for a while, you know I've said this story many times. I wasn't a big fan of the Synapsis pictus exotica. I thought the variegation looked too weird, but since it was such a good deal online, I got it anyways because girl loves a good deal, and I really fell in love with it when I got it. And I did an unboxing video of this one. It was actually marked as a silver splash POTHOS, so I wasn't even sure exactly what kind of Synapsis it was until I got it, but it is the Synapsis pictus exotica. Next question, what is a plant that I know I should not get but got anyways this year? So the plant that I know that I shouldn't get but got anyways is the Calathea white fusions. The Calatheas in general are in my no list when it comes to plants because as a plant variety or plant species, they're kind of difficult to take care of, especially for beginners, because they have a lot of requirements as houseplants. You need very high humidity for your Calatheas so they don't get crispy edges. And I am not a big Calathea fan at all. I stay away from it, avoid it at all costs. I actually avoid all types of prayer plants. Even though I find them at garden centers for a really good price, I don't buy any prayer plants, the Calatheas, the Sormantes, and the Maranthas. But when I saw this at the Plants Alive nursery, I couldn't stop looking at it. I keep coming back to it. And since I thought since I was getting a smaller plant, I wouldn't feel so bad if I killed it, or it would be a lot easier for me to take care of it. Another reason that I was a little bit more confident to take on a Calathea for the first time because I got humidifiers this year and I was also getting the IKEA greenhouse. So I think this time I could provide better conditions if I bring home a Calathea. So this one has been living either in my IKEA greenhouse cabinet or on top of my humidifier, but even then it still gets a lot of crispy edges. Right now it doesn't have a lot because I just pruned this, but this one still gets a lot of crispy edges even though it's literally sitting on top of my humidifier. So far it hasn't gotten any pests because there's another thing people worry about Calathea. They do get spider mites very easily, especially this time of the year. But yeah, a plant that I got this year that I probably shouldn't get was the Calathea white fusion. Plant that I successfully rescued in 2020 is this orchid. So I know it doesn't look much right now, but I got this from the clearance section at Lowe's, and I got it because I wanted to see if I could successfully get it to rebloom, and it still had the stems of where the flowers were growing from, and I thought there was enough buds or nodes for it to regrow, but then those 2 stems also dried out. So I thought I failed rescuing this. I wasn't gonna get it to rebloom, but lo and behold, you can look right here. This is new growth of, I think it's a keiki, what you call it, or the stem of the orchid or the buds of the orchid. So it's been slowly growing and it's starting to form new buds, and I'm really excited. And like I mentioned in a previous video, I think what really helped this was the orchid Plantmas. That thing actually really works on orchids. I've been spraying my orchids with the Plantmas almost every day, and it has really worked for this orchid and my other orchid plants that are blooming right now. So the plant that I successfully rescued in 2020 is this orchid. So the plant that I successfully propagated in 2020 is my Hoya carrii. So next to my POTHOS video, my Hoya carrii propagation video is probably my most watched video on my channel. And one of my #1 asked question here on YouTube is what happened to my Hoya carrii propagation? You want to see an update? I did do an update on it on my soil mix video as well as in one of my plant updates video. But aside from the very first update video, I really can't show you what happened to those propagations because I sold it. The only one that's remaining is this one, which is the single leaf propagation, which I kept for myself. So this one is doing pretty well, but because it's a single leaf propagation, it did not grow any new leaves or new stems. And this one is the mother plant. And if you watch my Hoya carrii propagation video, you know I cut it down to just basically the first 2 leaves. And since that propagation video, my Hoya carrii has now regrown 3 new leaves. I'm only supposed to pick 1 plant for each question, but I'm going to share with you the 2 other varieties of Hoya carrii that I got this year. The first one is the Hoya carrii albo marginata. If you watch my wishlist plants from Thailand, you know this is one of my imported plants. And this one actually came with 6 leaves. But after a month or so, it started to rot. I think the moss that it was in was too moist and I didn't check it right away until the leaves started falling off. So 3 of them fell off and I tried to propagate those leaves, but the rotting already entered the stems. So they eventually died off and I just threw them away. But I was left with this one, and this one was also rotting really bad. But I checked it the other day and I saw roots actually coming out of the node, the very small node that it has left. So I'm really excited about this one. I am not sure if this will actually grow new leaves because pretty much everything surrounding the node is already rotted off. So I'm not sure if this would still grow a new leaf, but these 2 leaves are attached together. So we will see. It might grow a new leaf, hopefully. And I have another one that is a single leaf that is hanging on my wire grid. And another Hoya carrii that I got is the Hoya carrii variegata. The variegation in this one is not as prominent as the albo marginata. Basically, it has a lighter green variegation in the middle of the leaf. This one, when I got it, it was pretty much a cutting. It wasn't potted up. So this one had some roots on it, but not a lot of roots. So I tried propagating it when I got home. I wrapped it in moss. This time I watched the moisture level of the moss to make sure it's not overly saturated, but also not completely dried out as well. And it successfully rooted. And now I have repotted it in soil. And so far it's doing well. And this one, I'm excited for it to grow new leaves. But yes, the plant that I successfully propagated in 2020 is my Hoya carrii. Next one is a plant I killed. A plant I killed in 2020 is the eucalyptus. So this is what's left of it. I think it will survive. I hope it does. It has still 2 stems of growth, but it hasn't really been growing since this summer. It's been like this for a while. So I don't know what's gonna happen with it, but I am keeping it. I'm trying to see if I could keep it alive and hopefully it would regrow next spring. But I've always wanted a eucalyptus plant. It's kind of hard to find. This is the silver dollars eucalyptus. And eucalyptus are supposed to be very fast growers. They actually warn you that eucalyptus is very fast growers. So I thought mine would grow into like a 3-foot plant really quick, but that didn't happen. I left this outside along with my other herbs during the spring and summer, but it got sunburned, so I brought it back inside. But at that point, the plant wasn't really looking too good already, and it didn't really bounce back even after I moved it back inside. But as you can see, it never really bounced back. I'm really sad about this one. I don't know if I'm gonna get another eucalyptus, but I want to see if I'm able to eventually rescue this. But so far, this is definitely a plant that I killed in 2020. The plant that I grew from seed this year is the avocado plant. So a lot of people tried to grow avocado from seed this year. I've tried growing avocados since last year from seed and I never had any success. Although I had great success with growing mango plants from seed and even pineapple from a store-bought pineapple, I've never had any success with growing avocados from seed. I tried every different method there is on the internet, but this one, the only reason this grew, like I said, I couldn't even take credit for it, was because it grew from my compost. And when I transferred my compost to my vegetable bed, This one hasn't decomposed yet and it grew into an avocado plant. So I actually took this from my garden bed and potted it up, and now it looks like this. I did chop it off, like TikTok said, you have to chop it off so it will go stronger. But this one didn't really branch. As you can see, I cut it off from here and it just grew straight back up again. And I also chopped it off on the top right here, and it hasn't grown new leaves, so I don't know if that's gonna branch or not. But so far it's looking good. I hope it gets as big as my mango plant. I don't think it will grow fruit for me anytime soon, or even if it did, I don't think it's gonna taste good. But I'm very happy, even though I can't take full credit for it, that I was finally able to grow an avocado from seed. My most underrated plant in 2020 is my spider plant. So this spider plant, I'm very proud of this because when I first got this in a plant swap, it literally was this, a cutting of this, a baby spider, and I planted it in soil. It grew really fast, and then now it's this. But during the growing season, I don't even think I was actually even watering it because it was outside and it was just getting watered when it rained. And next thing I knew, this plant has grown huge and has grown several babies of its own. And I can't even take credit for it because, like I said, I left it outside and let it be and let it survive on its own. And when I brought it back inside, it's like this now. And I'm really happy about this spider plant because I've always wanted a spider plant that has a lot of babies trailing down. I have this on top of my IKEA greenhouse cabinet right now, and I'm going to be propagating some of the babies of it in spring as well. But right now, I love seeing the babies trail down from the mother plant that used to be just a tiny baby as well. So yeah, my most underrated plant in 2020 is my spider plant. Next, what is my most challenging plant? My most challenging plant in 2020 is my thigh constellation Monstera. This one has put me through the ringer. It's definitely my most challenging plant this year. It is my wishlist plant, so I was really happy to get it this year. And I got it in a relatively good condition when I unboxed it. Two of the leaves were already starting to yellow, so I expected to lose those leaves, but the third leaf, that was the fenestrated leaf and had the most beautiful variegation out of all the four leaves, that one rotted off, and I was only left with this leaf. And for the longest time, it was only this leaf and this leaf alone while it was suffering from non-stop root rot. My plant has now grown 2 new leaves and it's about to shoot out a third one, even though we're heading towards the dormancy season. Right now, it is very happy. I recently repotted this from a 4-inch pot to the 6-inch pot. I actually just watered it, as you can see. I was bottom watering it, so the water level has just reached up here before I pulled it to film this video. So far, my journey with this is going well, but the first 2 months, it was really touch and go, and I cried. Like, no plant has made me cry. I know it's ridiculous to cry over a plant because that's what plants do. They live, they die. But this plant really attacked my self-esteem and really questioned everything that I knew about taking care of plants. But yeah, but now it's on demand, it's doing well, hopefully continues to do well, especially this winter. But yeah, the most challenging plant of 2020 is my thigh constellation Monstera. And the very last one, which one is my plant MVP. So my most valuable plant in 2020 is not the plant that is the most expensive, the most rare, the most uncommon, or the most variegated. My MVP, or my most valuable plant this year, is the plant that gave me the most growth, the largest growth, didn't have any problems, no pest problems, no leaf burn, was happy wherever I put it, went through the ringer because I repotted it so many times, propagated from it so many times, but it was still living its best life and still gave me the best growth and the largest growth out of all of my plants. And that plant is my Monstera deliciosa. So this one is a propagation of my mother plant. I'm growing this one in Leica. Again, another reason why this is an MVP, because this is probably the only cutting that I put straight into Leica that never had any problems and actually thrived. As you can see how much root it has grown while in Leica. So I'm really happy about that, and you can see how fenestrated the leaves are. And if you remember earlier this year, if you've been watching me for a long time, you know I put my Monstera through demos. Initially, I had like 5 or 6 plants in one pot that I separated into smaller pots, potted the 2 largest one into a bigger and deeper pot, and the other ones I propagated the heck out of. And I was left with the 2 largest plants and the smaller of the two plants I chopped off. One of them is this one, and the rest of the cuttings I also gave away, and I placed it in different areas of the house this year. At one point it was outside, another time it was in my room, now it's downstairs in the living room. But no matter what I put this plant through, it never gave me any problems, nothing with pests, nothing with yellowing, nothing with burns or anything like that. And not only that, very recently it gave me the best Christmas present of all. It grew a very fenestrated leaf, the most fenestrated leaf it ever produced. Not only it had multiple fenestrations on the side, it also has fenestration on the middle as well. Yes, I have a monstera leaf now that also has a fenestration in the middle, and I'm so excited. I always wanted a mature Monstera deliciosa leaf, but those are expensive. So when I got mine, it was a juvenile, and I've only had the Monstera deliciosa for a year and a half, almost 2 years now, and it went from being a juvenile Monstera deliciosa to a mature Monstera deliciosa in no time. So I'm really proud of my Monstera deliciosa and deserve the title of MVP in 2020. But yes, that's the plant check tag, sharing with you some of the highlights with my plants in 2020. And I actually haven't thought of who I was going to tag in this video. Before filming this, I will tag all of the people that I want to tag down in the description and also down in the comments. But off the top of my head, I'm tagging Tatiana, Sarah, David, Christian, Sharina, Myra, Davy, Erica, Lesia, Maya. I know I'm forgetting a lot of people. I'll be tagging them down in the description. And anyone else who's watching this, I invite you to do the plant check tag. If you don't have a YouTube channel, you go to my IG Reels or to my TikTok and use my sound to do your own plant check over at Instagram and on TikTok. But that's it for today's Plantmas, and I will see you at day 10 of 12 days of Plantmas. Bye!
Hey yo, plant check!
The first plant that I bought this year, a plant that I know I shouldn't get but got anyways, a plant that I rescued, a plant that I successfully propagated, a plant that I killed, a plant that I grew from seed, my most challenging plant,